Captain Daniel Hayes stood alone in the observation deck of Station Sentinel. The great window curved around him like the eye of some sleeping giant. Below, Mars stretched out in shades of rust and brown, but Daniel did not see Mars. He watched the stars beyond, scanning the deep black of space like a man waiting for bad news. It was 3 in the morning. The station was quiet. Most of the crew slept in their quarters while Daniel monitored the sensors. This was his favorite time. Alone, quiet, free to think, but tonight something felt wrong. The instruments began to chirp. Daniel moved closer to the screens. Energy signatures, multiple ships. They came from beyond the cloud, moving fast, very fast. Daniel's hands moved across the keyboard, pulling up more data. The ships were massive, bigger than anything Earth had ever built. The readings made no sense at first. Then they started to make perfect sense, and that terrified him. Daniel pulled up the trajectory. The ships were not heading toward Mars. They were not heading toward Jupiter. They were heading toward Earth, toward home. His heart beat faster. Contact, first contact, but not the kind anyone had dreamed of. The ships moved with military precision. They were not science vessels, they were warships. Daniel could see it in the way they moved, the way they held formation. He had studied military tactics his entire career. He knew a formation built for conquest when he saw one. Daniel opened a secure channel to Earth. He had to warn them, but before he could send anything, his screens filled with static. Then a signal broke through. Not from the approaching ships, from somewhere else, from deeper in space, from the Galactic Council. The message was encrypted, but Daniel's security team had cracked the Council's codes months ago. He did not know why the Council had left their communications so vulnerable. Now he would learn why. Now he would wish he had never found out. The decryption finished. The message appeared on his screen. Daniel read it slowly, each word hitting him like a fist. All member species, this is the Galactic Council. The human species of Earth has been classified as extinction-level threat. The Vex Empire has called for immediate termination of the human civilization. The Council votes to accept this termination. Humanity will have 72 hours to surrender all weapons and control of their planet. Failure to comply will result in complete extinction. No survivors, no mercy. The Vex fleet approaches for enforcement. Council is adjourned. Daniel sat down. The chair caught him just before his legs gave out. He read the message again, then a third time. His mind could not accept the words. Extinction-level threat. No survivors, 72 hours. He pulled up the approaching fleet again. 5 massive ships. Each one larger than Earth's entire space force combined. Each one capable of destroying a city with a single strike. They would reach Earth in less than 40 hours now. Daniel calculated it 3 times. The math did not change. The captain stood up. His hands shook. He had to think. He had to decide what to do. If he sent this warning to Earth, panic would spread. Governments would fall. People would riot. Families would break apart. The world would end not from alien weapons, but from fear and chaos. But if he said nothing, the Vex would arrive to a sleeping, defenseless population. Daniel walked to the window again. He looked at Earth, so small and blue from this distance. He thought of his daughter, Emma. She was 10 years old. She wanted to be a pilot like her father. She kept his old flight jacket hanging on her bedroom wall. What future did she have now? He pushed the thought away. Emotion would not save anyone. Daniel sat back down at the controls. He began to work. First, he sent a warning to Earth, not to the government. To the Secretary of Space Affairs, was a friend. More important, was smart enough to understand what was coming, was not a politician. He was a practical man who would know what to do. Then Daniel began to dig deeper into the Council message. If the Council had left their codes vulnerable, what else had they left unguarded? He searched the encrypted channels for more information, for context, for any weakness he could use. After 2 hours of searching, he found something. A debate between Council members. Not all of them wanted the extinction order. They had spoken against it. They had asked for more information. They wanted a trial period, but they had been outvoted. The Vex had used their military power to force the decision through. Daniel read the debate carefully. The leader, Sovereign, had said something important. She had said that judging a species by fear alone was the path to becoming a monster. She had said that young species often seemed dangerous simply because they were young. She had said that perhaps humanity deserved a chance. But her words had not been enough. The vote was 7-3. The extinction order passed. Daniel looked at the time. 38 hours until the Vex fleet arrived at Earth. He had to do something. He could not save the planet with military force. Humanity could not win a war against ships that powerful, but maybe there was another way. He thought about Sovereign's words, about giving humanity a chance, about not judging a species by fear alone. An idea began to form in his mind. It was crazy, it was impossible, it would probably fail, but it was the only option left. Daniel opened a new channel, not to Earth, to the neutral zone near Jupiter, to the diplomatic station there. He knew someone there, someone who had spent 5 years building relationships with alien species, someone who understood diplomacy better than anyone alive. He typed out a message to Tors, the only human diplomat who had ever lived among the stars. He told her everything, the fleet, the extinction order, the time limit. Then he added one more line. We have less than 40 hours to convince the Galactic Council to stop this. I need your help. I need to know if there is any way to save Earth. I need to know if anyone out there will listen to us before it is too late. Tors was not supposed to be awake at 3 in the morning. Her job did not require it. She was a diplomat, not a soldier. She was supposed to work during the day and sleep at night like a normal human. But it had never been normal, and normal people did not spend 5 years living on a space station between the stars. She was reading when the message arrived. A book about the history of peace treaties. It seemed appropriate for her life. Make peace, save lives, go to bed at a reasonable hour. The universe, it seemed, had different plans. The message was from Daniel Hayes. She had met him once at a conference on Earth before she left for space. He was smart. He was careful. He was not the kind of man to send panic messages for fun. Read his words 3 times. Then she read them again. Extinction level threat. 72 hours, the Vex Empire. Moved to her window. The diplomatic station orbited near Jupiter. The planet filled half the sky, a giant ball of swirling clouds. It was beautiful. It was also very far from Earth. It would take hours for any ship to reach her. That was actually good. It meant she had time to think. She opened her communication network. She had spent 5 years building relationships with alien species. They had taught her their language. They had shown her their art. They had invited her to their homes. She knew these people, or at least she knew them better than any human had ever known aliens before. Sent out encrypted messages to every contact she had. To Sovereign of the, to Scholar of the, to Ambassador on of the. She told them what had happened. She asked if there was any chance, any small chance, to change the Council's mind. The responses came back quickly. They were all the same, hopeless, impossible. The Vex had too much power. The other Council members had already voted. The decision was final. But Sovereign added something extra. She said she wanted to speak with, not through messages, face to face. Had 1 hour to decide. Did she take a ship to the... Did she leave the safety of her station and travel through space to try something that probably would not work? Or did she stay safe and let Earth die? She thought about her family, her parents in Los Angeles, her brother in New York, her sister's children in Texas. Billions of people who had no idea that the universe had decided to kill them. She packed a bag. They had a small shuttle at the station for diplomatic emergencies. This was the ultimate emergency. The journey to Prime took 18 hours. Spent those hours working. She pulled together everything she could find about human culture, music, art, literature, philosophy. She compiled videos of humans helping other humans. She found footage of rescue workers saving people from disasters. She found videos of children laughing, of mothers holding bobbies, of people who had given their lives to save strangers. She organized it all. She wrote notes explaining each piece. She tried to create a picture of humanity that they could understand, a picture that proved humans were worth saving. When the shuttle landed, Sovereign was waiting in the arrival chamber. There were tall beings with smooth blue skin and eyes that reflected light like polished stone. They lived a very long time. They thought carefully about their decisions. They did not make mistakes lightly. Embraced in the way, the greeting was warm and genuine, felt a moment of hope, but the Sovereign's next words erased it. The Council will not change its mind, said. She spoke in the careful English that had taught her. The Vex are too strong, the others fear them. Then why did you ask me to come? Felt her hope dying. Because you asked for a chance, because the Council said no, because I believe there is something here that matters, led through the halls of her palace. But I do not know if I am right. Tell me, Tors, is humanity worth saving? Convince me, not as a diplomat, as a human who loves her species. Looked at the Sovereign. She saw a being who had been alive for 2,000 years, a being who had seen civilizations rise and fall, a being who was tired but still searching for something true. Yes, said, we are worth saving, not because we are perfect, we are not. We are wild, we are brutal sometimes, we hurt each other. But we also love, we sacrifice, we forgive, we create beauty, we protect the weak. We dream of better worlds even when everything seems dark. Over the next hours, showed the videos and the writings and the music. She told stories about humanity, stories they had never heard before, stories about a man who saved an enemy soldier and became his friend. Stories about scientists who gave their lives to cure diseases. Stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Listened, she did not speak. She did not show emotion, but could tell the sovereign was thinking deeply about every word. There is something I must tell you, said finally. The Vex fear you. This is why they want to destroy you, not because you are weak, because they believe you will become strong. They see human potential as a threat. They see your adaptability and your growth as dangers to their power. So we are being killed for what we might become, felt anger rising in her, not for what we are. Yes, this is the truth the Council has hidden. The Vex are not afraid of human weapons. They are afraid of human nature. They are afraid that humans will one day match their strength and surpass their morality. Understood then, the Vex were not trying to prevent a threat. They were trying to prevent evolution. They were trying to kill potential itself. Then we have to show them they are wrong, said. We have to show them that human potential leads to mercy, not conquest. Stood up, she was very tall. Her eyes were sad and wise. I will try to convince the others, and they already listened to me. Together we might be able to propose an alternative, not salvation, but something better than extinction. I cannot promise this will work, Tors. The Vex are powerful, but I can promise that I will fight for your species, because I believe what you have said is true. Humanity is worth saving. We have maybe 30 hours left, said. Then we must work quickly, replied. Gather what you have shown me, prepare to speak before the full council. Bring everything that proves humanity has value. We will present a case that even the Vex cannot easily ignore. Left the sovereign's palace with a small spark of hope in her chest. It was not much, but in a universe that had decided to kill her entire species, it was everything. As her shuttle prepared to leave for the council chambers, looked down at Prime. The Grand Council Chamber was the largest room Tors had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up beyond sight. The walls were made of a material that seemed to glow from within. The floor beneath her feet was hard and cold and made her feel very small. Representatives from 9 different alien species sat in a circle around her. Each one was massive. Each one represented the power of their entire civilization. In the center of the circle sat the Vex commander, a being with skin like burnished metal and eyes like burning coals. His name was not important. What mattered was that he could destroy Earth with a single command. Stood alone in the middle of the circle. Sovereign had fought hard to get her this audience. The other members of the council had protested. The Vex had demanded that she be silenced immediately, but the rules of the council were clear. Any species under review had the right to speak for themselves. Was not a politician. She was not a great speaker. She was a woman who had spent 5 years alone on a space station learning to understand aliens. But now, with the fate of her entire species depending on her words, she had to be more than that. She had to be perfect. My name is Tors, she began. I am a human. You have voted to destroy my species. You have 72 hours to do it. I am here to ask you to change your decision. The Vex commander laughed. It was a sound like metal grinding against metal. Why should we listen to the words of the prey? He said. We will destroy you in any case. This meeting is a waste of time. Felt her fear like a physical thing, heavy in her chest, but she pushed forward. She had prepared for this. You are afraid of us, she said simply. Not because we are dangerous now, because we might become dangerous later. You are not afraid of human weapons. You are afraid of human potential. You want to kill us not for what we are, but for what we could become. The silence that followed was complete. No one moved, no one spoke, could see it on their faces. She had said something that the council did not want to admit. That is a lie, the Vex commander said, but his voice was less certain now. It is the truth, replied. You fear that humans will one day evolve beyond your control, that humans will develop wisdom as well as strength. That is why you want us dead. Not because we are a threat, because we might stop being a threat to you specifically. We might become something greater than you can control. Stepped forward, she did not raise her voice. She did not make grand gestures, she simply spoke from her heart. "Let me tell you about my species," she said. "Let me tell you what we are actually capable of." She turned to face the representative. "I have a friend named. I met him on a vessel 5 years ago. He was a weapons designer. He had created devices that could level mountains. His government wanted him to make them bigger, more powerful, but he refused. Instead, he left his job and became a teacher. He teaches young about art instead of weapons. He chose beauty over power. This is what humans inspire in others. This is what we are capable of bringing to the galaxy." She turned to face the sovereign. "Taught me that wisdom comes from time and reflection. Humans do not live as long as your species. We live for only a few decades, so we must learn faster. We must compress wisdom into a short lifetime. And we do. We create art and music and philosophy that moves beings 1,000 years older than us. We dream big because we know we do not have much time." She turned to face the your species values family above all things. Humans are the same. We will die for our families. We will die for strangers' families. I received a message this morning from my sister. She does not know that the world will end. But she sent me a photo of her children. That image was more powerful than any weapon. That image is what I fight for. Not conquest, not revenge. Family, children, the future. Paused, she looked at each representative in turn. "You fear that humans will become like you, that we will grow strong and forget mercy, that we will use our power to rule over others, but you are wrong. Yes, humans are brutal. Yes, we war with ourselves. Yes, we can be cruel, but we also choose differently every single day. We choose to help. We choose to forgive. We choose to build rather than destroy." She pointed at the Vex commander. "You say we are an extinction-level threat. You say we are too unpredictable, too dangerous. But what you really fear is that we are too good. You fear that our mercy will make your conquest look like tyranny. You fear that our creativity will make your order look like stagnation. You fear that our love will make your power look like fear." The chamber erupted, multiple voices speaking at once. The Vex commander stood up, his form growing larger with anger, but Sovereign stood as well. "The human has the right to finish," the Sovereign said. Her voice cut through all the noise like a blade. Continued. "I am asking you not to spare us out of pity. I am asking you to let us live because you believe in potential. I am asking you to trust that a young species can grow into something great. I am asking you to have faith that humans will choose mercy because mercy is what humanity is built on." She took a breath. 200 years ago, humans were still burning fossil fuels and destroying our own planet. Now we are here. We have crossed the stars. We have built vessels that can touch other worlds in only 200 years. Imagine what we could become in 2000, not a threat to you, but a light in the darkness, a reminder that wisdom and compassion are stronger than power. Stepped back. "That is all I have to say. Except this, if you destroy humanity, you will become what you fear. You will become the monster that kills based on fear alone. You will prove that strength without compassion is nothing. You will prove that the Vex Empire is not a beacon of civilization, but a tomb of fear." The silence returned. This time it was different. This time it held weight. The Vex commander sat down. He looked like he wanted to speak, but something in the faces of the other representatives stopped him. They were thinking. They were remembering what had said in the secret debates. They were considering the possibility that a young species might have value precisely because it was young. Sovereign rose to her feet. "I propose an alternative to extinction," she said. "Let humanity join the Galactic Alliance on probation. Let them be guided by our council. Let them prove themselves over time. If they threaten the peace, we will take action. But we will give them the chance the Vex would deny them. We will give them the chance to become something great." The ambassador stood next, then the scholar. One by one, the voices that had doubted humanity began to speak in favor of this new path. The Vex commander did not stand. He did not speak. He simply watched with burning eyes as the council voted, 6-3. Humanity was saved, not because they were perfect, but because Tors had shown them what they might become. As she walked out of the chamber, felt the weight of the moment crash down on her. Earth would survive, billions of lives would continue. Her sister's children would grow up. Her parents would see there. Humanity would have a chance. The news broke on every screen on Earth at the same time. Breaking news, urgent alert, all communications channels, all languages, all nations. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and it had almost been killed. The initial reaction was chaos. Governments fell within hours, people rioted in the streets, Families tried to leave their cities, but gradually, as the news sank in, something unexpected happened. The fear transformed into unity. For the first time in human history, every nation agreed on something. They had all been marked for death. They had all been saved by a human who had spoken for them. They would all owe their lives to what Tors had done, and they would prove her right. They would show the galaxy that humanity deserved to live. Secretary General Lisa Park stood before the United Nations Assembly. The room was packed. Representatives from every nation on Earth were present. They were angry, they were scared, but they were also determined. "We have been given a second chance," Lisa said. Her voice was calm and steady. "The Galactic Council has placed us on probation. We must prove that we are worthy of a place among the stars. I am announcing today that humanity is committing to a new path. We will end all wars. We will eliminate violence and cruelty. We will become the species the Vex feared we would not become." A representative from Russia stood up. "How can we end all wars?" he demanded. "Humans have always fought. This is our nature." "Our nature is what we choose," Lisa replied. "For thousands of years we have chosen conquest and violence. Today we choose differently. Today we choose peace." She outlined a plan. Every nation would reduce military spending by half. Every nation would invest that money in education and medicine and science. Every nation would share technology with the others freely. Borders would remain, but they would be open. People could travel. Trade would flow freely. The vote took only 3 hours. Every nation agreed. For the first time, humanity spoke with one voice. Captain Daniel Hayes watched the announcement from Station Sentinel. He felt tears on his face. Had done it. She had actually done it. Humanity would survive. The species would live to see the future. But as he listened to Lisa Park's words about ending war and violence, Daniel felt a spark of doubt. Could humans actually change? Could a species that had fought with itself for thousands of years suddenly choose peace? It seemed impossible, but had made the impossible real. Perhaps this could too. Over the following months, something remarkable happened. The fear of extinction transformed into inspiration. Young people around the world began to change their careers. Weapons manufacturers started building desalination plants. Military bases became research centers. Soldiers became teachers. But more than that, something deeper shifted. People began to see each other differently. They were not enemies. They were one species, one human family. The barriers that had divided them for so long began to crumble. Crime rates dropped, not because of police action, but because people stopped wanting to hurt each other. Charitable giving increased. Billionaires donated their fortunes to help the poor. Corporations that had spent centuries exploiting workers began to change their practices. Daniel witnessed these changes from his position in space. He received reports from around the world. A businessman in Tokyo had closed his luxury goods factory and was now building schools in rural areas. A general in India had used her military connections to coordinate humanitarian relief. A terrorist organization in the Middle East had disbanded, and its members had joined a peace movement. None of these changes were perfect. Some people resisted, some nations cheated. Corruption still existed, but the direction was unmistakable. Humanity was trying, and the effort itself was powerful. Daniel received a message from Lisa Park 6 months after the council decision. She was offering him a position, commander of humanity's Space Defense Initiative, not to build weapons, but to coordinate humanity's integration with the Galactic Alliance, to work with alien species to share knowledge and culture. Daniel accepted immediately. He left his post on Station Sentinel and returned to Earth for the first time in 3 years. His daughter Emma was waiting at the spaceport. She was 11 now. She had grown taller, but she was still wearing his old flight jacket. She ran to him and hugged him so hard he could barely breathe. "Dad," she said, "you saved the world." "No," Daniel said, holding her close. "I helped, but thousands of people saved the world. Tors, the Galactic Council, Lisa Park, and regular people everywhere who decided that peace was more important than war." Emma pulled back and looked at him. "I have something to show you," she said. "At school, we are building a sculpture. It is made from weapons that were melted down, swords and guns and artillery shells. We are turning them into art. It is called the Monument to Human Change." Daniel felt something break open in his chest. This was what it meant. This was the real change. Children growing up in a world where weapons were turned into beauty, where the future was more important than the past. Over the next year, Daniel worked tirelessly to build bridges between humanity and the alien species. The sent teachers to Earth, the shared medical technology that could cure diseases humans had suffered from for centuries, the brought art and music that inspired human artists to new heights. And slowly, humanity became not just a species that had been saved, but a species that was shaping the galaxy itself. Human philosophy was studied in schools. Human music was played at celebrations. Human art was displayed in the museums of 12 different species. But the most important change was internal. Humans looked at each other with new eyes. They saw not enemies or competitors, but brothers and sisters. They understood that they had been given a second chance, and they were determined not to waste it. Daniel received visitors constantly. Students who wanted to learn about diplomacy, artists who wanted to create works celebrating human culture, scientists who wanted to collaborate with alien researchers. Each one was proof that words had been true. Humanity was worth saving, not because they were perfect, but because they were willing to change. On the one-year anniversary of the Galactic Council's decision, Lisa Park asked Daniel to make a public address. "I stand before you today as the commander of humanity's space defense," Daniel said, speaking to billions of people across all the networks on Earth. "But I am here to tell you that humanity needs no defense, not against external threats. Our greatest victory is not military, it is moral." He told the story of what had almost happened. He told about Tors standing before the Galactic Council. He told about a species that had chosen mercy over revenge, unity over division. "We were marked for extinction," Daniel said, "but we were saved not by weapons or strength. We were saved because someone believed in us, and because we believed in ourselves. Today I am proud to say that we have proven that belief justified. Humanity has become a light in the darkness. We have become a species that builds rather than destroys, that heals rather than harms." He paused and looked directly at the camera. "To the Vex and to any who still fear humanity, I say this: your fears are being answered. Yes, we are becoming stronger. Yes, we are becoming wiser. But we are also becoming more compassionate. We are becoming something you did not expect. We are becoming worthy of the power we are developing, and that should give you hope, not fear. Because a galaxy where mercy grows stronger is a galaxy where all species can flourish." Emma watched her father's address in her school. She was proud. She was also part of something bigger than herself now. All young humans were. They were growing up in a world where the future was being built together, not fought over. The monument to human change was completed that day. It stood in the center of New Geneva, where the united 20 years after the day the extinction order was given. Daniel Hayes stood in the same observation deck where his life had changed forever. He was older now. His hair was gray. The lines on his face told the story of 2 decades spent working to build peace between worlds, but his eyes were still sharp, still watching, still hopeful. Station Sentinel orbited above Earth. The planet below was transformed. The green areas had grown. The deserts were blooming. The oceans were healing. From space, Earth looked like a world that had decided to take care of itself. Daniel watched a shuttle dock with the station. A visitor was arriving. He knew who it would be. Tors. After her historic speech before the Galactic Council, she had become Earth's ambassador to the Alliance. She had spent the last 20 years building the relationships that allowed humanity to flourish. When she entered the observation deck, looked much the same as she had all those years ago. But there was a peace in her face that had not been there before. The weight of desperation was gone, replaced by the weight of responsibility, but a weight she carried willingly. "Hello, Daniel," she said. "Sovereign is holding the council session tomorrow. I wanted you to be there." "What is it about?" Daniel asked, though he thought he knew. "The Vex Empire," said. "They have called for a trial case. There is a young species that has been marked for extinction. The Vex claim they are too dangerous, that they will become a threat. But there are enough council members who remember what happened to Earth that we might be able to change their minds." Daniel nodded. This had happened before. 3 times in the last 20 years. 3 times young species had faced extinction. And 3 times the council had voted to give them a chance instead. But each one was a battle. The Vex did not forget. They did not forgive. They simply waited for another opportunity to prove their fears justified. "I will be there," Daniel said. "What is the species called?" The said, "They are similar to humans, young, adaptable, unpredictable, everything the Vex fears." Daniel looked back out at Earth. His daughter, Emma, was down there. She was 30 years old now. She had become a pilot like she always wanted. She was training other humans to work with alien species. She was building the future that Daniel had fought for. "Do you think we can save them?" Daniel asked. "Yes," said simply. "Because we have something the Vex do not have. We have proof. We have Earth. We have humanity, and we have your story. We have proof that a young species can grow into something beautiful. That is all the need. That is all any young species needs. Hope." The next day, Daniel sat in the Galactic Council chambers. It was the same chamber where had made her speech 20 years ago, but Daniel had never been inside it before. It was smaller than he expected, but the weight of the space was enormous. The Vex commander was older now too, but his burning eyes were unchanged. He still hated humanity, still believed they should have been destroyed, but he had learned to hide his hatred behind political arguments and threats of what might come. Stood at the center of the chamber. He was 35 years old. He had been only 5 when the extinction order was issued. He had grown up knowing that his entire species had almost been erased. He had grown up determined to make that near-death count for something. Was the member of the Galactic Council, the first human to hold such a position. The Vex had objected loudly, but the other council members had voted in his favor. A human on the council, they said, would help the others understand what humanity was becoming. "The species before us today," said, "faces the same judgment humanity faced 20 years ago. They are called a threat. They are called unpredictable. They are called dangerous. And they are being called these things not because of what they have done, but because of what they might become." He paused and looked at the Vex commander. "I was a child when my species was almost destroyed. I grew up knowing that somewhere in the darkness, other beings had voted to kill my family, my friends, my entire world. I have spent my life wondering why they stopped. I have spent my life grateful to those who believed in potential instead of fear." Held up a small object. It was a photograph printed on materials that could survive space travel. "This is a picture of my daughter," said. "She was born 5 years after the extinction order was revoked. She would not exist if Sovereign and her allies had not believed in humanity. My daughter is training to be a diplomat herself. She wants to help build peace between worlds just like her species learned to do." He looked directly at the Vex commander. "I am asking this council to give what was given to humanity. Give them a chance. Guide them. Teach them. But do not destroy them for what they might become. Because if you do, you will prove that you are not a civilization built on wisdom. You are a civilization built on fear, and fear destroys everything it touches." The vote was swift. 7-2, they would be given a chance. They would be placed under probation and guidance, but they would live. As the council adjourned, Daniel felt something release in his chest. Another species saved. Another world given tomorrow. This was what speech had set in motion. Not just the salvation of Earth, but the transformation of an entire galaxy. That night, Daniel stood alone again in the observation deck of Station Sentinel, had returned to the council chambers to begin her work with had gone back to Earth to tell his people that their actions mattered. But Daniel stayed. He liked this place. It was where he had first learned about the threat. It was where he had begun to fight. He thought about the last 20 years. He thought about the countless humans who had worked to prove words true. The scientists who had shared their research. The artists who had created beauty from pain. The teachers who had helped young aliens understand what humanity was. The ordinary people who had simply chosen kindness every single day. The Vex commander had been wrong about humanity, but he had been right about one thing. Humans had the potential to become something extraordinary, but not in the way he feared, not as conquerors, as builders, as healers, as beings who had learned that compassion was the strongest force in the universe. Daniel pulled up a message from Emma. She had sent him a video. It showed her training a group of young humans together. They were learning to fly together. Young bodies from different worlds, moving as one, learning from each other, building a future together. In the video, Emma was smiling. They were making sounds that were their version of laughter. The walls of the training facility were covered with drawings made by both species. Different bodies, same hopes, same dreams. This was what Daniel had fought for. This was what had spoken for. This was what humanity had chosen to become. The universe had marked Earth for extinction, but one message had changed everything. One woman's belief that humanity deserved a chance had transformed not just one species, but an entire civilization. Daniel looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, they were beginning their own journey. They would face their own challenges. They would have to make their own choice about who they wanted to be, but they would not have to face it alone. Humanity would be there as proof, as guide, as hope. A transmission came through, a priority message from the Galactic Council. Daniel opened it. It was from Sovereign. In her message, she announced the formation of a new organization, the Alliance for Redemption. Its purpose was to protect young species from extinction. Its founders were Antors and its first director was Daniel Hayes. Daniel read the message 3 times, then he stood up. He had work to do. There were more species out there, more species facing fear and judgment, more species that needed to know that the universe could choose mercy. Daniel looked at Earth one last time, blue and green and beautiful, a world that had chosen to change, a species that had chosen compassion, a message that had changed the fate of everything. The first human to hold a position of real power in the galaxy began to plan, not for conquest, not for domination, but for salvation, for mercy, for the spreading of the understanding that every young species, no matter how wild or unpredictable, deserved the chance to become something great. The Extinction Order had been meant to end humanity. Instead, it had started something new. It had started a movement, a transformation, a new epoch where the strongest civilizations were not those that feared the future, but those that believed in it. As Daniel worked into the night, surrounded by the hum of stations and signals and the vast network of a galaxy learning to be better than it had been, he thought about words before the council. He thought about how she had stood alone and challenged the most powerful beings in existence, how she had believed in a species that the universe had condemned, how that belief had changed everything. One message, one woman, one choice. That was all it took to transform the fate of billions. That was all it ever took. And now, Daniel Hayes would spend the rest of his life making sure that message was never forgotten, making sure that every young species learned what humanity had learned, making sure that the galaxy knew that mercy was stronger than fear, that compassion was the most powerful force in existence, that the future belonged not to those who destroyed, but to those who believed. The stars burned overhead. The universe continued its ancient dance, and on a space station orbiting a blue world far from the center of the galaxy, a man who had once been alone with terrible knowledge was now part of something greater, part of a transformation that would echo through generations, part of the proof that even in the darkest moment, when extinction seems certain, one message can change everything. Ions met, made from melted weapons and hardened into the shape of hands clasped together, a symbol that humanity had chosen connection over conflict, that a species could change, that the future was theirs to shape. Behind her, the Vex commander watched. He was not done. The Extinction Order was revoked, but his hatred was not. One day, he thought. One day humanity would prove the Vex fears justified, but not today. Today they had been given a reprieve. Did not care about his thoughts. She had only one thought. She had to tell Daniel. She had to tell Earth. Humanity would live to see another tomorrow. Was beautiful. It was ancient. It was the home of a species that had learned to value wisdom over power. If anywhere in the galaxy could save humanity, it would have to be here. It would have to be through beings like who still believed that mercy was stronger than fear. Clutched her bag of human stories close to her chest. In 30 hours, she would stand before the most powerful beings in the galaxy and try to convince them that her species deserved to live. The odds were impossible, but had learned something from humans that the Vex did not understand. Humans did not stop fighting just because the odds were impossible. Humans fought harder. Daniel sent the message and waited. Somewhere in the void between stations, his words traveled at the speed of light, would receive them in a few minutes. Her response would come not long after. Daniel could only hope she would believe him, could only hope she would have an idea he could not see. He looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, 5 alien warships were speeding toward Earth. Somewhere out there, billions of people slept without knowing their world was marked for death. And somewhere in the middle of the impossible, Daniel Hayes stood as the only human who knew the truth. The weight of that knowledge was crushing, but Daniel did not sit down. He stood. He began to prepare. He began to gather every piece of information about the Vex and the Council that he could find. He began to plan, not for defense, but for salvation.